Okay, awesome sauce. All right, let's get started. Okay, so as I said, welcome to tonight's workshop, Cultivating Black Joy, and unpacking, or rather understanding life after trauma. I know that's like a big topic, so we're gonna do our best to cover as much as we can. Tonight, if you see me looking to what's this, my left? If you see me looking to my left, I'm just looking at my second monitor here. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not distracted or anything like that. So if you see me looking, that's what's happening. Um, and so if you don't know, my name is Jessica Robinson Grant. I am the proud founder of Soul Care Christian Counseling and Consulting. We started in 2021, so January of 2021, and we've been going ever since. So if my math is correct, that's about what, 3 years? Three years, I think. Um, and it was founded due to the recognized gap of between faith and mental health, right? So that was really the big gap. I did my research, my master's research on the role of social work in the Black church. And one of my findings was that there was no space or a very limited space for Black folk to talk about their faith and their mental health. And so that's something that we really, really want to hone in on here at Soul Care, which is why we're creating spaces like this and just access as well. In terms of the framework that we use at Soul Care, it is trauma informed, it is rooted in Afrocentric principles, and it is rooted in scriptures. So it is for us, by us. Don't worry, I ain't gonna get preachy. None of us are gonna get preachy because this evening. But we do want you to know kind of like where the framework is rooted. And it's for us by us. And I think that's like really, really important for us as Black folk. I think one of the things that's like really important for me and that just is just amazing is when I first started out, people are like, you're a unicorn. Like a Black female therapist is like almost like unheard of. And I was like, really? And I was like, really? You correct? Because that's how I felt when I was looking for a Black female therapist. And now we have Black male therapists. And so it feels like our area of faith and mental health is very nuanced and niched, and not a lot of people are in this space. And so we're grateful to be in this space. I'm going to share a little bit about myself, and then Nigel can go ahead and share a little bit about himself. So as I said, I am the founder of Soul Care. I am a therapist and I'm a clinical director, and I'm a speaker and mental health workshop facilitator, clearly, as we're here. I'm a soul care leadership expert, a retreat host, and I'm a Pentecostal preacher. That's a part of who I am. I get really excited, and I love church, and I love Jesus. And I also am a wife and a mom, two titles that I hold very dearly to me that are very important to my intersectionalities. I believe it was Bell Hooks that says the personal is political. And so I hold those titles really dear to me as they're a part of who I am. All right, go ahead, Nigel.
Going on, everybody? What's going on? As Jess said, my name is Nigel Bucknor. I am one of the associate therapists here at Soul Care. I have the privilege to be the first male, and I'm going to hold on to that title. In Soul Care, as a prestige honor of mine. Outside of that, I am a husband, I am a father, and I'm also author. I released my first children's book the beginning of last year. And outside of all of that, I'm a church baby. I grew up in church. All things church. You name a ministry, I've been a part of it. You name a choir, I've been a part of it. That is my experience, and I just love holding space. I love being able to, serve our people, serve our community in this way. So I'm excited to co-facilitate with Jess and to pour into you guys.
We're excited. This is exciting. Okay, so quick workshop agenda, and then just some housekeeping, and then we'll jump right into it. So one of the first things we're going to do is go over a community of care and housekeeping. So we'll do that in a bit. We'll go through the worksheet together. So we do have a worksheet for you all. So Nigel's going to go ahead and put that in the chat. So this is a fillable PDF that you would be able to, as we are navigating through the workshop, you'll be able to fill it in. So Nigel has shared that in the chat, so you'll be able to download that on your computer, and you can be typing in it, whatever, however that looks for you. So it is a worksheet for us to work through together. Also, we have a free ebook. We give y'all a lot of stuff for free. Amen. We also have a free ebook. Nigel, if you can put the link to that as well. And these are journal prompts, essentially, as it talks about cultivating joy. And one of our very own therapists, Anita, curated that for us. So that's like super, super exciting. So you can click on that as well. So you're getting a lot of stuff tonight that you're walking away with. Session 1 will be done by yours truly. So I'll be unpacking trauma and post-traumatic growth. And then session 2 will be done by Nigel, and it's kind of like navigating through and unpacking Black joy. And then we'll do a closeout collective exercise, and we'll have some time for some questions. I did send out an email for folks to submit their questions, but we only got one. So we're going to try our best to have space for the questions afterwards. Okay. All right, really quickly, let's do the community of care because I feel like I'm talking about this stuff a lot. So one of the first things we want to do is we want to limit our distractions and we want to aim to be present. You created this time and space for yourself. So just aiming to be present, I think will be really, really important. Remember your notebooks and pens. I mean, you have the worksheet, so whatever that looks like for you, but maybe you want to take notes of something that's resonating with you, that's standing out to you. This is workshops or spaces to learn, so you want to be able to do that. Feel free to check in with yourself. When we're talking about things like trauma and different stuff like that, it is easy to become triggered. Becoming triggered is not hard, but it's how we respond to those triggers, right? So you want to be able to check in with yourself if you need to take a moment, you need to put the thing on mute, take a step, take a walk, whatever the case may be, check in with yourself. We want to support each other and cheer each other on. Please use the chat. If something is resonating, let us see it in the chat. So use the chat function. With that, we're gonna have ourselves on mute to limit distractions. And of course, we're going to respect each other's opinions because everybody's opinion is different and we're coming from different walks of life. And finally, we are not medical doctors, so we cannot and will not diagnose anyone. We are here as psychotherapists, but that is about it. So we're not medical doctors to diagnose anyone or to say any of those things. Okay, sounds good. Let me see in the chat. Everybody's good? Everybody sounds good? Yeah, yeah. Okay, y'all seem like a shy bunch. It's cool. It's cool. All right, let's get started. Okay, so session 1. So here we are talking about, and here's where you can begin to go through your worksheet, okay? So here's where now we are defining trauma. What is trauma? Because I find that a lot of times trauma is a buzzword right now. It's a huge buzzword right now. Everybody is using the word trauma, and I feel like sometimes we're not necessarily defining it in the right way. So we want to be able to define what trauma is, okay? So first of all, the word trauma derives from the Greek word wound, right? That in itself gives context to what trauma is. So at its root, it means wounding. So the word trauma derives from the Greek word wound. So that experience that you went through, that traumatic experience created a wound, right? So at its root, at its core, the word trauma means wound. Okay, trauma is an event that overwhelms a person's capacity to cope. Okay, and it has a long lasting impact. So, when you've gone through the aspects of trauma, any experiences of trauma, it does affect your ability to cope and it does have long lasting impact, right? It does have that long lasting impact. Another aspect of trauma is that trauma is an experience that overwhelms a person's resource for coping, And this experience disrupts a person's sense of safety, their perception of control, and their ability to self-regulate. So when you've had a traumatic experience, it affects you holistically. It affects you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of the alleys. It does have an effect on you. And some two things I want to stress again is that the aspect of trauma does have a long lasting impact, right? So I know sometimes it's like, man, that happened when I was 5 years old. Why is that still impacting me now? Or why is that still impacting my mother and she's 60 years old? It has a long lasting impact unless we've been able to process it, okay? Also, the aspect that it disrupts your sense of safety, right? And it disrupts your perception of control and your ability to self-regulate. Okay, so those are some important aspects around defining trauma. So what are some different types of trauma? And I think this will be interesting because this now will give language to people. Maybe this is the type of trauma that I've experienced, okay? And this is where I want you to check in with yourself because there might be an aspect where you have a memory of some sort. So make sure you're checking in with yourself. Even for myself, when Nigel and I were going through the workshop, I was like, "Ooh, Nigel, my chest. I feel that right here. I feel it in my chest." So if I'm the facilitator and I feel that way, I can imagine what you might experience. Okay. So there are four different types of trauma. So the first trauma is, and again, you have your worksheet so you can fill this in. So now you're being educated. Okay. There's acute trauma. Okay. Acute trauma, a single traumatic experience that causes extreme or emotional or physical stress. Right. So an example of this could be a loved one has passed away, an act of violence, sexual or physical assault, natural disaster, right? Acute trauma has an ability to throw the body and brain into crisis mode. Okay, so acute trauma is a singular event, a singular traumatic experience that you've navigated through. Okay, then we have chronic trauma. Okay, so chronic trauma are multiple traumatic experiences that you are experiencing over a long period of time. So this is continuous. So an example of this is those who live in maybe like war-prone areas. So our brothers and sisters in Palestine right now who are experiencing this war, they're going through chronic trauma. I'm sure all of these traumatic experiences probably relate to them, but they're experiencing aspects of chronic trauma. So it's prolonged, right? It's continued. Okay. Then there is complex or compounded trauma. Okay. So this is a specific kind of chronic trauma that includes multiple traumatic events that are repetitive, prolonged, or cumulative. Okay, so this can involve things like exploitation, neglect from your primary caregivers, and this is usually around your developmental times. That is when it usually begins. If we could do a whole other workshop literally on this alone when we talk about the aspects of ACEs. So this is adverse childhood experiences, okay? And so this aspect of complex or compounded trauma is that multiple layers of trauma, okay? I use myself as an example. So there was the aspect of rejection. There was the aspect of sexual abuse. There was the aspect of abandonment. That is an example of compounded or complex trauma. Does that make sense? Is that making sense for folks? Can you guys let me know in the chat? Even though I feel like y'all are a quiet bunch. Drop a one in the chat if that's making sense. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm seeing the yeses come in. I see it from two people. Oh, three people. Okay. Praise God. Okay. Yes. Yes. I love that for us. Okay. I love that. So that's cumulative or compounded trauma. And then this last one right here is why we have workshops like this. Okay. Because there's intergenerational trauma corresponded with historical trauma. This is multi-generational trauma experienced by a specific cultural group, right? So an example I have here is the Jewish Holocaust, the residential schools experienced by the indigenous community, and us, Black folk, and slavery. This is why every Black person needs to be in therapy at some point in their life. You don't even have to have gone through potentially a traumatic experience per se right then and there, but there's aspects and layers of intergenerational trauma that lives in us. I have this book, I'm going to show it to you. It's called My Grandmother's Hands. And it's essentially talking about the layers of intergenerational trauma that exist and show up in our body. It also talks about the aspect, and I was talking to somebody about this today, of how there's certain cultural norms and things that are as a result of traumatic experiences, but we've called them norms, right? We've called them norms, right? So things that are like to other people are like, that's normal because they're a traumatic response, right? And so that's why it's important to have spaces like this where we can understand what is trauma, why does it feel as though I'm navigating through something or experiencing something that I didn't even go through. So why do I react in this way? Um why is it that when George Floyd, trigger warning, when that happened to him, why did I react in that way? What happened? What's going on the inside? That is as a result of, yes, there might be aspects of our acute traumas and complex and different things, but that's also a reaction of Black person to Black person, right? Because that's something that we feel deep in our souls. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense in terms of a definition of trauma. Okay, so what are the impacts of trauma? Okay, let's talk about the impacts of trauma. So traumatic experiences impacts a person, as I had said before, physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. It literally affects all aspects of who you are. That is the impact of traumatic experiences. It impacts your entire being. It impacts your perspective. Dr. Anita Phillips says that trauma is anything that affects the way you see yourself, God, and others. Right? So it has such a deep impact. And sometimes we're wondering, like, yo, why does it feel as though this thing is just lingering? Because there's a wound that has happened deep in our soul. And I want to talk about that aspect of the wounding as it relates to the impacts of trauma. Okay. So I have a few scars. I don't know if you can see them on my hand or somewhere around here. And these scars are maybe one of the scars specifically has to do with burning my hand on the iron. Do not judge me. Do not judge. This is a non-judgmental space. Don't judge me. Okay. However, when I first got burned with the iron, because I was doing something and I put my hand close to the iron and it burned me, it was more of a wound, right? So it hurt. That wound, when you touch it, it has a reaction, right? And then now it's a scar. So then when I touch the scar, I don't feel anything. That is the power of post-traumatic growth, right? Where wounds no longer hurt like they used to. And so my heart for you is that those wounds will no longer hurt like they used to. I'll give you another example. Don't judge me once again. My daughter has a bottle thing where we sterilize her bottles. And I don't know what I did, Nigel, but I put my hand over it and that thing burned me. It's like right here. I don't know why I stay burning myself. I promise you I'm okay. I am not self-harming or any of those things, but it hurt. But now I notice that it doesn't hurt as much because I've been looking after it and being mindful of it and taking care of it, right? And so in essence, what I'm trying to say is the aspect of trauma does have the effect to wound your soul and to wound your total being, but there is life after trauma. And so my heart is that after you've received this information, that you'll be able now to walk away and say, okay, how can I apply these principles to my life? Okay. Impacts of trauma. Early experiences have an effect on the brain. We're going to do a little science lesson right now. It has effects on the brain. Okay. I'm going to read what we have here because I want you to be able to fill in the blanks, but I'm going to give you a demonstration. Okay. So the amygdala. The amygdala. The amygdala is, sorry, someone. The context, the burns are context for presentations like these. Amen. Not me being churchy. Amen. Okay. Okay, so the amygdala. So your amygdala is right here, right? So somewhere right here. It's like a little alarm system, but we'll go through that in a second. So the amygdala helps us to feel emotions, control emotions, and is responsible for formation and storage of emotional memories. Okay. It is like an alarm system. It gets information from our senses. Okay. If this part of the brain is constantly stimulated, it can cause hypervigilance. I'm sure some of us can relate to that, and can cause anxiety, irritability, and anger outbursts. Okay? So if your amygdala, like the fire alarm, the alarm system is continuously going off, these are some of the results. And this is as a result of traumatic experiences that we have gone through. The prefrontal cortex, okay? Make sure you're tracking with me. The prefrontal cortex confirms or cancels the alarm and receives information from the amygdala, okay? The hippocampus. The hippocampus plays a vital role in the formation of new memories and episodic memories. Note that word, episodic memories. The hippocampus is involved in emotional regulation. It interacts with the other regions of the brain and involved in emotional processing, such as the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. Let's go through this right now. So this is the hippocampus back here somewhere, the amygdala, and then the prefrontal cortex. There is, if you have two brains next to each other of a person who experienced trauma and a person who didn't experience trauma, the brain looks very different. The amygdala is likely more, I believe it's more red of some sort. Yeah, red, right? It has some kind of color, but the amygdala is different from the other person. It's very different. And also your prefrontal cortex is not as developed because you've been living in the amygdala and the hippocampus. Does that make sense? So what happens is, okay, let's give an example here. Maybe somebody at work, I don't know. Oh, let me give an example because I have an example. Actually, let me not give that example because this is being recorded. So let me let me use a outside example. So for example, somebody at work, they do something, I don't know, maybe they talk to you in a certain type of way. Okay. And you're triggered and you're like, yo, like, first of all, why am I responding in that way? That your amygdala doesn't know the difference between how should I put it? Your amygdala went off as a fire alarm because your hippocampus had a memory. You had a memory that triggered your amygdala, right? And because your prefrontal cortex has not been as accessible, you now are in that place of being triggered consistently, right? And so what happens is when you are navigating and you are able to process your traumatic experiences, you are now able to now make sound decisions. You're able to now respond rather than react. When your amygdala is continuously going off, you are in a place of more reaction than you are responding. Right? So when you're being triggered, you know, when you're like, I'm triggered, that triggered me. That is what's happening in the brain. Does that make sense? Did I explain that properly for people? Let me see in the chat. Let me know if I explained that properly for people. Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Because yes, okay, I heard yes. Is there ways to rewire the brain? Yes, we're gonna talk about that afterwards. Okay, everybody said yes. Okay, go Jess. Because I am not a neuroscientist, but I wanted to give you guys this explanation of what's happening in your body, right? This is what's happening in your body, okay? So, what are some common responses to traumatic experiences, right? Depression, okay? Anxiety. And again, remember, this is as a result of what is happening in your brain that's now communicating to your body what's happening, okay? So for example, maybe with depression, why and for some people they don't even recognize that it's depression. Why am I so sleepy, so tired? What's going on in my body? Your brain is communicating to your body that you've been triggered. That's what's happening in the body, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So it's like, why am I reacting in this way? Why does depression feel like such a heavy blanket? Why does it feel so heavy? Why does it feel so daunting? Why does it feel like this? Because your brain is communicating what's happening and is communicating it to your body. Anxiety. Why am I always so quick like this? What's going on? Or why can't I why am I responding in this way? Or why your brain is communicating what's happening to your body. And so it's important to respond to what's happening to your body. Your body will always tell you what's happening. The body keeps score. It will always tell you what's happening. We have low self-esteem and self-worth. Jessica, how does that even make sense? Well, as a child, somebody told you that you were not good enough. And so at work, when they reject you or they reject a proposal or your boss says something, again, your amygdala doesn't know the difference between the fact that it's not somebody again telling you that you're not good enough, but it makes that connection with that memory. And then now your amygdala is fired off again because your hippocampus is communicating, I am not good enough. And then now you remember that little girl that was told that you are not good enough. Does that make sense? Hopefully that is making sense for people. Eating disorders, we don't talk about that a lot in the Black community, right? Oh, somebody told me as a child that I was fat. And so now I'm just eating salad. Not saying eating salads are bad, but now I'm just eating salad, or I'm consistently in the gym, or I'm obsessed with how my body looks, right? But I'm not saying that's an eating disorder. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not diagnosing anybody, but I'm saying a lot of the times this is how we're responding. And for some people, they don't even realize that it actually is an eating disorder and it's a reaction. Issues with sleep, burnout, imposter syndrome, comparison, anger, rage, right? So as a result of the impacts of trauma that happens in our brain, and trust me, it's a lot deeper than what I just experienced, that I just explained. These are some common responses to the traumatic experiences that we go through. One more that I want to touch on before we wrap up, or before we go into post-traumatic growth, is the aspect of depression. Because a lot of people, and I am people, didn't realize that they were depressed because they are high functioning. And then something happens and you crash and you're like, whoa, what just happened to me? Right? A lot of us as Black folk, we don't realize that depression is a part of our story and a part of a part of our body, or is lingering with us because we're high functioning. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, here's here's a trauma-informed perspective that I want to leave with you. If you don't write anything else down, I want you to write this down. Okay? It is not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. It is not, how many times have we asked ourselves the question, what is wrong with me? Why do I keep responding in this way? Why do I keep reacting in this way? What's going on with me? You're having a trauma response. And it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. And so, my heart is that you will be able to see yourself through this trauma informed lens, because then you'll be able to give yourself much more grace. Why? Here's why. Dr. Caroline Leaf from Cleaning Up Mental Mess, she says, trauma is probably the hardest pattern to work on, which is why so many therapists spend years working on trauma with their clients. Working on trauma takes a lot of work, time, grace, and self compassion. It involves embracing, processing, and reconceptualizing things that are generally incredibly painful and upsetting. There are three words here that I want you to pay attention to: grace, self-compassion, and embracing. Okay, those are three words that I want you to pay attention to. Working on trauma takes a lot of grace and self compassion. What you went through, and in this moment, I want to validate you. What you went through was hard, it was difficult. I feel that in my chest because I just had a memory. What you went through was hard, and it was difficult, and it was hard, and it was difficult, and it was sad, and it was not supposed to happen to you, and it was not your fault at all, right? It was not your fault at all. And I want you to know that. And so, with that, I want you to give yourself some grace and some self compassion. Some grace and some self compassion. Okay. This is the final part for me. I'm almost done. So, what are some things that we can do to take steps towards post traumatic growth? Okay, what is post traumatic growth? The aspect of post traumatic growth is learning to grow through and from your experiences. Okay, the aspect of post traumatic growth is learning to grow, learning, keyword learning, normalize learning. I made a reel on this the other day on my social media, and you can go and check it out. It's talk about normalized learning. It's like 30 seconds. It's important to normalize learning, normalize this discovery of who you are post your traumatic experience. So, learning to grow through and from your experiences. The example that comes to mind, the visual that comes to mind, is literally a rose growing from concrete. Do you guys know where that's from? And if you don't, I'm going to have to revoke your black card. Okay. That is from Tupac. The roses that grew from concrete, right? That is a visual of post traumatic growth where you can grow through your experiences and you can grow from your experiences. Okay. So, Jessica, what does this mean? And I know that this sounds so simple. I know that this aspect of post traumatic growth sounds so simple, but they've done hundreds of years of research on these four principles right here. And I'm a living witness of this. I don't know if I'm pretty sure Nigel's a living witness of these aspects of growing through and implementing these strategies. But these things work. Okay, they work. These aspects of growing through post traumatic growth works. First thing, reestablishing community groups. Okay, I know for a lot of us, we're like, I don't trust nobody. I almost went into like a Jamaican language. Me not trust nobody. I don't trust people. I don't trust people. That is a trauma response. It's a trauma response. And I validate that trauma response because people have given you a reason not to trust, right? However, a part of post traumatic growth is reestablishing community groups, rituals, singing. I like the language, getting in sync and rhythm with other people. So for those of us who go to church and we are singing on a Sunday morning and we are worshiping, that is the aspect of groups and singing and rituals and getting in sync and rhythm with other people. Right? So that's why the aspect of being in community is so important. Regulation, learning how to calm yourself down. Because remember, we talked about earlier about how the amygdala is going off. What happens now? We are accessing our prefrontal cortex that gives us the opportunity now to respond rather than react. Jessica, what does that look like? That looks like mindfulness. That looks like self-observing. That looks like deep breathing. That looks like journaling. That's why we gave you those journaling prompts, right? Effective action. So doing things that work and things that bring you joy. And this is why cultivating joy is so important. And then there's the aspect of processing traumatic memories. Therapy. This is why it's important to go to therapy, to give yourself time and space, to have an empathetic witness, to be able to hold space for you, to validate you, to be able to say, I understand what you're going through, to challenge maybe your thought patterns and different things like that. So that is why this is important, right? So effective action. So we talked about art, dancing, trying new foods, different things like that, therapy, mindfulness. And I know these things can sound so fluffy. It can sound fluffy, but it's actually a way to access the prefrontal cortex and also to learn to regulate yourself, to ground yourself. For those of us who are believers, prayer is an access an aspect of regulation. Praise and worship, reading our Bible, things like that. That is actually regulating us if we allow it to. For those who may not be believers, journaling, going on walks, different things like that. So all of these things help us on the journey of post-traumatic growth. Okay, so my part here is done, but before I hand over to Nigel, I want us to just do something really quickly. Um, actually, let me do it this way. Let's take a moment because I know that I just gave you guys a lot of information. Let's do this. I want us to just put in the chat, maybe put in the chat or take a minute to write what resonated with you from session one. What's resonating with you from session one? That's on your worksheet. So you could put what's resonating with you from session one. What's something there that is resonating with you? Do I have anybody that wants to put it in the chat? And if not, I completely understand. And maybe you just need some time to process that. Maybe you need some time to navigate through that, right? So what is resonating with you from session one? Where did my Zoom go, dear Jesus? Y'all, the Zoom left my screen. I can't see y'all anymore. That's Satan. I actually cannot see you guys anymore. I don't know what just happened.
Check your other screen, maybe there.
Uh, oh, there it is. I'm back. Okay. I don't know what just happened, but it's okay. But yes, so what's resonating with you? Did anybody put anything in the chat? Okay, I think people are still just trying to process, and that's totally fine. Okay, okay, I'm seeing some things here. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. Learning yourself, giving yourself grace and compassion. I love that. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's dope. Thank you. And again, you could just take some time and just write it down. What are some things that are resonating with you and that are coming up for you? Somebody said basically everything. I love that. I love it. Okay. All right. Let's do a quick breathing exercise. So we're just going to do a quick breathing exercise. Um, really, really quickly. I know I'm like, whew, kind of thing. Let's just do a quick breathing exercise. We won't be long with it, and then we'll hand over to Nigel. Okay. So I want everyone to, Nigel, just one hand or two hands? Just one hand? Okay. So we're gonna do whichever hand works for you. I'm gonna do my left hand. That just feels like the right hand to do right now. And you're gonna trace your hands. And as you trace your hands, you're gonna be taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Okay? So let's start. Nigel already started, but let's start. So after let's say five. Five, four, three, two, one. So deep breath in and Okay. Mm. Okay. Was that good for folks? How was that for folks? Was that good? Was that a good breathing exercise? I hope it was. Okay. Okay. Somebody said, I love that. And you know what? You can do that breathing exercise honestly anywhere. I actually did it in one of my sessions today. I just felt like I needed to be more grounded in the moment and I needed to take a deep breath. And I did it, and it was absolutely amazing. All right. Okay, my friends, thank you for your time. And now Nigel will take over in session 2.
Right, everybody, what's going on? We just came out of amazing session with Jess, and we are now going to be in session number 2 with myself. And we're going to be talking about cultivating Black joy. That's what we're going to be talking about right now, cultivating Black joy. So when we think about cultivating Black joy, we're going to provide ourselves a working definition. Okay, so here is our working definition right now. Black joy is the holistic understanding and acceptance of one's lived experience, and through the lens of empathy, compassion, and mindfulness, the courage and the ability to make decisions that align with our authentic self and who we desire to be and where we desire to go. Okay? So it's a holistic understanding and acceptance of self. And through the lens of empathy, compassion, and mindfulness, it aligns us for where we want to go and who we want to be. All right, so that is our working definition of what is Black joy. All right, that's our working definition. Let's break this down a bit more. Let's talk about what is impacting your joy. All right, because we know there are some things that are just impacting our joy. So here's the first thing that is impacting your joy. All right, your childhood experiences, also known as your negative core beliefs. Okay, childhood experiences and negative core beliefs. So core beliefs are deeply ingrained subconscious beliefs about oneself, others, and the world around them. All right, that is depreciating in nature. So your core beliefs are a deeply ingrained subconscious belief about yourself, about others, and the world around you, and it depreciates yourself in nature. Okay, it's depreciating yourself in nature. So when we talk about our negative core beliefs, this is things like abuse and trauma, which we talked about earlier, dysfunctional family dynamics. These contribute to your core beliefs and they impact your ability to experience joy. Okay, what has your childhood experience taught you about joy? Okay. Well, what has your childhood experience taught you about joy? Right? Our negative core beliefs, they prevent us from fully embracing moments of joy and lead us to self-sabotaging. All right. So our childhood experiences, they grow up with us and they impact us in our teenage years. They impact us in our young adult years. They impact us in our adult years, in our marriage, as a parent. Our childhood experiences grow up with us. And we just talked about the aspect of your prefrontal cortex, it impacts the development of that as well. It impacts your decision making. It impacts how you see yourself. These are the things that your childhood experiences, these are the areas that they can potentially impact with our negative core beliefs. Here's another thing that's impacting your joy, and it stems from childhood as well, your self-esteem. Your self-esteem impacts your joy. So in the book, Rock My Soul, Black People and Self-Esteem by Bell Hooks, she defines self-esteem as is the confidence in our ability to think, in our ability to cope with basic challenges of life, and the right to be successful and happy, and the feeling of being worthy, deserving to assert our needs and wants, and to achieve values and enjoy the fruits of our efforts. Okay, I'm gonna say that one more time. Self-esteem is the confidence in our ability to think, in our ability to cope with basic challenges of life, the right to be successful and happy, the feelings of worthiness, deserving to assert our needs and wants, and to achieve our values and to enjoy the fruits of our efforts. So low self-esteem can act as a barrier to experiencing joy. Low self-esteem can act as a barrier when we are trying to experience joy. And it does that by distorting our perception of self, our self-worth, right? It does that by distorting that and fostering negative self-talk and creating barriers to positive experiences. So when we are having or experiencing low self-esteem, negative self-talk is the number one thing that is created here. And when our self-esteem is low, our vision is impaired. Okay. When our self-esteem is low, our vision is impaired. And an impaired vision impacts how we receive what we see, that being information, and it impacts our actions towards ourselves and others. So when our self-esteem is low, it impacts our vision, how we see ourselves, how we interact with people, how we interact with family members, how we interact with friends, how we interact with co-workers. It impacts all those areas, those relationship dynamics. It impacts all of that. It impacts all of that. And funny thing, I said relationship dynamics because that's the next thing that impacts our joy. What is impacting your joy? Relationship dynamics. So this refers to the patterns of interactions, behaviors, and communication between two individuals. All right. So when these interactions and behaviors and methods of communication become unhealthy, it could potentially result in the creation of a lack of emotional support. Not only that, but codependency, emotional manipulation, stressful or tense environments, which all impact your joy. Right. So I want you guys to see the connection here. Childhood experiences impact our self-esteem, which impacts our relationship dynamics, which all impacts our joy. All right. Our joy is impacted by our childhood experiences. Our joy is impacted by self-esteem or low self-esteem. Our joy is impacted by our relationship dynamics. And what are some aspects of relationship dynamics? There's communication styles. There's power dynamics. There's emotional intimacy. There's conflict resolution. And there's also boundaries. All right. So I just listed 5 aspects of relational dynamics that your joy may be impacted by. Okay. We're going to go quickly. We're going to jump into something that we're going to encourage you guys to do after the session. So we're going to talk about quickly a joy challenge. All right. This is your joy challenge to do after our session. So what we want you to do is write down, what does joy mean to you? Okay, what does joy mean to you? And then we want to get you guys to write down 3 things that is maximizing, or rather, sorry, impacting your joy. What are 3 things that are impacting your joy right now? All right. When you think about my joy, thinking about happiness, thinking about fulfillment, what is impacting that right now, present day? So we want you guys to write down, what does joy mean to you? What are 3 things impacting your joy? And then we want to ask you guys to throw it in the garbage. And here's why we're asking you to do that. We're asking you to do the aspect of taking what's impacting your joy and throwing it in the garbage, because that is a sign that you're taking a step towards cultivating joy for yourself. And it doesn't end there, right? So all we're doing is partnering with you and encouraging you to take that step. You don't have to be in this environment. You don't have to sit in the place that you're in and allow different factors to impact your joy. You have autonomy over your joy. You have the power to cultivate joy for yourself. All right. Is everybody with me? Let me know in the chat if you're with me. Let me know in the chat if you're with me. If this is all making sense to you. If there's any questions, write down your questions and take some time. We're going to answer it at the end. Let me know in the chat. Okay. You guys are all with me. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So here's our next topic we're talking about as we're talking about cultivating joy. All right. We're going to talk about developing dynamics of joy. So we're going to look at it from the perspective of internal and external. All right. Developing dynamics of joy internally and externally. Okay. So let's talk about internal aspects of joy, gratitude and appreciation. Okay. Gratitude and appreciation. All right. So joy is often accompanied by feelings of gratitude and appreciation for the people, experiences, and circumstances that contribute to positive emotions. All right. So cultivating gratitude, it enhances your experience of joy by fostering a sense of abundance and fulfillment. So investing in something like a gratitude journal or journaling in general, taking time out of your day, whether it's once a week, twice a week, for 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of your day and reflecting and writing down, what am I grateful for? All right. What did I do well today? What did I experience today that put a smile on my face? What am I appreciated for? What did my partner do for me today that I'm appreciated for? What did my coworker, my boss, what did they do for me that I'm appreciated for? All right. Practicing gratitude impacts and enhances your joy. Okay. Practicing gratitude and appreciation enhances your joy. Here's the next one: self-love and acceptance. Now, this is a big one. This is a special one because this is one of the pillars in soul care. All right. If you're one of our clients or if you've ever engaged with us and you hear us talking about the 5 pillars of soul care, this is one of them: self-love and acceptance. Okay. So self-love and acceptance is an essential component to healthy self-esteem and overall well-being. Okay. It involves cultivating a positive and compassionate relationship with self, where we embrace both our strengths and imperfections and treat ourselves with kindness, respect, and understanding. All right. And if we're honest with ourselves, we don't like assessing our imperfections. We don't like that. You know, when we look at our imperfections, we experience shame, we experience guilt, we experience negative self-talk when we are looking at our imperfections. But your imperfections are a sign of your growth, right? Your imperfections are a sign that you are not where you started. You are not where you started, right? Your imperfections can help foster strength. They can help foster growth, right? So when we're talking about cultivating self-love and acceptance, we're embracing our strengths and imperfections. So we talked about imperfections. What are your strengths? What do you do well? How are you showing up? Do you do that well? What is it that you are doing well with yourself and others? And this will also tie into gratitude and appreciation. Okay. All right. Here's the next one: creative expression. All right. So we're talking about developing internal dynamics of joy, creative expression. So creative expression is the catalyst for joy. All right. It offers you the ability to experience self-discovery. It offers you the ability to experience connection and fulfillment with self, right? So creative expressions can be things like writing, painting, music, dance, cooking classes, learning a new skill, right? These are all creative expressions, right? And you don't have to be a creative to experience something like this. All right? We are all creatives. in our own way, in our own right. We are all creative. Whatever we need to do to express ourselves, that is creative. Okay. But here's some benefits of having a creative expression. It's an outlet for emotions. It's a sense of accomplishment. It's developing our authentic selves, and it speaks to our feedback loop. All right. So let's talk about that feedback loop real quick. So feelings of joy inspire further creativity and creative expression and enhances the feeling of joy. So when we do something that creates that fulfillment of joy, that feedback loop allows us or communicates to us, I need to keep doing that. I need to keep doing this thing that creates this essence of joy for myself. And it encourages you to navigate and figure out what else can I do to foster this feeling of joy. Okay. It's a reciprocal connection between creativity and joy. All right. That's what the feedback loop provides you. This deep reciprocal connection between creativity and joy, which you benefit from. All right. Let's now turn to external. All right. So we talked about internal joy, developing dynamics of joy internally. We talked about gratitude and appreciation. We talked about self-love and acceptance. We talked about creative expression. Let's jump to external. So here is an aspect of external joy. All right. Developing dynamics of joy externally, achievement and success. I'm going to say something to you that we don't normally say, but we need to normalize it. Celebrate yourself. Okay? Learn to celebrate yourself, your goals, your milestones, receiving any kind of recognition. Allow yourself to embrace that, to feel that. Celebrating yourself is not a crime. Celebrating yourself is not sinful. Okay? All right. Learn to celebrate yourself. These are external things that we can do to produce internal satisfaction, right? Celebrating your goals, your milestones, any recognition. We do this, it creates and produces internal satisfaction and joy. Developing external joy is allowing your intrinsic motivators, which are personal growth, passion, and curiosity, to lead you to self-discovery and development of new goals. All right? Personal growth, passion, and curiosity lead you to self-discovery and the development of new goals. And we're going to pause right here and quickly just talk about curiosity. Some of you need to reclaim or redevelop your relationship with curiosity. Okay, some of us need to reclaim or redevelop our relationship with curiosity. All right, learn something new, challenge your mind, go deeper. And that word deeper or deep was one of the words that came up a lot when I was doing my research on this. Right, when we talk about that deepness, your joy has the ability to go beyond you, right? Your joy has the ability to impact your relationships with your kids and generations after you. And that all stems from your ability to be curious to experience joy in some type of way. Okay? So we've talked about achievement and success. That's externally. Here's the next one: cultural traditions and rituals. All right. It's Black History Month. Y'all should be tapping into your heritage, tapping into your culture. Allow yourself to experience your culture in different ways, right? So whether it's music, dance, food, knowledge, there's tons of knowledge out there that represents us as Black people. Tap into that. All right. These activities and experiences can produce joy and appreciation, which can also influence and impact your self-esteem and produce joy. Okay. Your cultural traditions, it's a part of who you are. All right. It is a part of your makeup. It's a part of your DNA. It's a part of your personality, your character, your cultural traditions and rituals is something to be appreciative about. It's not something to push away or to forget about it. It's a part of who you are. Okay. So externally, we've talked about achievement and success, and we've talked about cultural traditions and rituals. But with everything that we've been talking about, externally, externally, what's impacting our joy, let's talk about how do we protect our joy? Okay? How do we protect our joy? Here's the first thing you can do to protect your joy: boundaries. Okay, and I know boundaries has become this buzzword in society, and we talk about it and have different perspectives. But here's a perspective when it comes to protecting our joy. Boundaries is a way to implement standards for yourself and others. Okay? Boundaries is a way to implement standards for yourself and others. Boundaries honor your needs and values, well-being, and deeper relationships when conditions for your joy to thrive. Okay? Boundaries honor your needs and values, your well-being, and deeper relationships with the conditions for your joy to thrive. All right. Here's what boundaries can do for you in relation to joy: enhance your self-esteem, increase authenticity, emotional resilience, freedom to prioritize joy, and a clear sense of identity. All right. This is what boundaries do. When we are implementing boundaries to protect our joy, we're allowing ourselves, and one of the things I loved about this, we're allowing ourselves to prioritize our joy and a clearer sense of our identity. The things that have impacted your joy has impacted your identity. The things that have impacted your joy has impacted your self-esteem. And boundaries can be a tool, not the only tool, but can be a tool to support you in protecting your joy. All right. Here's the next thing: healthy community. All right. This is how we can protect our joy: healthy community. In healthy communities, there is nurturing and support, social connections taking place, safety, belonging, and vulnerability. Healthy communities provide holistic protection for our joy. All right. You're not an island. You can't be the only one protecting your joy. You need community. All right. You need people that you can rely on, you can lean on, that can speak into your life, that can correct you, that can tell you when you're not doing something right, but can encourage you to do the right thing. You need healthy community. All right. You need healthy community for people you need relational healthy community, and you need people that are above you as well. You need mentors. You need people that you can reach out to that can see where you are, have been where you've been, and pour into you that way, or even just hold space for you to vent. All right. We need to be able to hold space for each other so we can vent. All right. Here's the last one. And this one may be a little sticky for some of y'all, but we gonna make it. All right. Confronting self. All right. Confronting self. How do we protect our joy? We got to confront ourselves. All right. Protecting your joy is your responsibility. All right. Protecting your joy is your responsibility, which means confronting yourself and how you engage with your joy is important. All right. We got to confront ourselves. We got to be accountable to ourselves. We got to be vulnerable with ourselves. Taking ownership of our actions, choices, and well-being is vital to protecting our joy. So that means sometimes we may need to say no. Some of us need to develop a relationship with that word no. No, I can't do this. No, I can't be here. No, I'm unavailable. No. All right. Your no is valid. We don't need to add anything else. Your no is valid. All right. Addressing our habits. All right. Addressing our routines. Some of our routines is what's impacting our joy. Your bedtime routine is impacting your joy. How you wake up and start your day is impacting your joy. Sleep. Y'all need to put down your phones and go to bed. And I'm guilty of it. I promise you, I'm guilty of it. But we need to put down our phones in the nighttime and go to bed. Our sleep is impacting our joy. Okay? Being mindful of what we fill ourselves with, right? We got to be mindful of what we are filling up our mind, what we are filling up our emotional tank with, what we are filling up our heart with. These things are impacting our joy. So maybe there's certain shows that you just can't watch. Maybe there's certain books that you cannot watch. Maybe there's certain relationships you can't be a part of anymore. Your joy is your responsibility. Okay? How's everyone doing? Talk to me in the chat. Talk to me in the chat. Everyone take a deep breath. I know this is a bit heavy. How are we doing in the chat? How you guys doing in the chat? Let me know. How are we doing right now? Everyone doing okay? All right, we're doing all right. We're all here. We're all alive. We're okay. Someone said, I need some edge control. Okay. I feel like you're I promise you I'm not attacking you. I promise you I'm not attacking you. All right, trying to cultivate our joy. I love that. I love that. So here's what we're going to do as we're closing out this portion of our workshop. We're going to say an affirmation collectively. All right. So if you all had the opportunity to open up your interactive worksheet at the bottom of session 2, there is an affirmation that we're going to say collectively. And if you want to unmute yourself to say it, that's totally cool. If you want to say it in the comfort of your own space and keep yourself muted, that's totally cool too. All right, but we're going to close out this portion of the workshop or this portion of the session collectively saying this this affirmation collectively, okay? All right, we're going to start on the count of, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to say, and I'm going to say go, and then we go start. Okay? All right. So 1, 2, 3, go. I am
And
resilient,
resilient,
powerful,
powerful,
and worthy of joy.
and joy.
I
I
possess the
trust the
strength and courage to overcome obstacles and find moments of happiness
happiness
and
and
fulfillment.
fulfillment.
I will embrace my resilience and know that
Know
my
that
joy
joy
is
is a
revolutionary act of self-love and
love
resistance.
resistance.
I love that for y'all. So
Mhm.
this is the end of session 2. Let me know how it was for you in the chat. If anything resonated with you, put it in the chat, or even if you want to put yourself on mute and just quickly, share 5 seconds of how you felt about session 2, what resonated with you, feel free to do so. Feel free to do so. I'm still laughing at whoever said I'm attacking them. Jeez.
Someone said
This
this.
was amazing. Thank you both. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part. I love
I know.
Yeah, listen, that thing is powerful. Say
Mhm.
no. Yeah,
Mhm.
my
Your
job is
joy.
my responsibility. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Creating healthy boundaries. Yep. I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. It just sucks when people say no. So I could speak to that, but we ain't in therapy. So I'm gonna we'll talk. We can talk. We can talk offline. Confronting self. Yeah, yeah. We gotta learn to confront ourselves. That's
Mhm.
big. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, this ends the portion of session 2,
Mhm.
and we're going to quickly transition into questions. Okay,
Mhm.
we've dedicated some time. We've poured into you. We want to know how you guys feel. If you guys have any questions, again, we're not experts. We regularly old people. We just got a couple letters behind our name, but we're going to do
We
our
are
best.
experts. We are.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting me. No problem.
I'm an expert. I ain't a doctor, but
No,
I'm an
that's what I meant to say, but we're not
expert.
doctors. But excellent, But anywho. If you have questions, please put it in the chat. And we're dedicating some time to do that. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so what we're gonna do though to respect confidentiality as well as it relates to the questions, we are going to stop the recording at this time. And so if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, you can also do so. So for those who will watch this after, thank you so much for joining the Soul Care workshop. Okay, we're gonna stop the recording now.